In the dusty annals of the American Old West, certain names echo louder than others. Jesse James, Billy the Kid, Wyatt Earp, but among them, one stands apart for his contradictions, his tragedies, and his unlikely journey from medicine to murder: John Henry Holliday. The world remembers him simply as DOC. Holliday, a Southern gentleman, born of privilege, a trained dentist with delicate hands, who became one of the most feared gunfighters of his era. His story is one of transformation, of decline, of loyalty and violence, and it remains one of the most enduring legends of frontier America. To understand DOC Holliday, we must first step back to August 14, 1851, when he was born in Griffin, Georgia. His father, Henry Burroughs Holliday, was a veteran of the Mexican-American War and later served as a Confederate soldier in the Civil War. His mother, Alice Jane, came from an old Southern family and doted on young John Henry. The Hollidays were well-to-do, respected in their community. John was raised in comfort and refinement, far removed from the saloons and bloodshed that would later define his life. DOC was bright, well-mannered, and studious. He excelled in classical education, reading Latin, studying rhetoric, and learning to play the piano. His mother encouraged his sense of civility and his keen mind. But in 1866, tragedy struck. Alice Jane Holliday died of tuberculosis, a disease that would one day come for her son as well. John was just 15. Her loss scarred him deeply, but it also prepared him for a future where death was never far away. At 19, Holliday entered the Pennsylvania College of Dental Surgery in Philadelphia. Dentistry was a respectable, lucrative profession, and he applied himself diligently. He graduated in 1872, earning his doctorate at just 20 years old. Now officially, Dr. John H. Holliday, DADS. He returned to Georgia to set up practice. Patients recalled a polite, soft-spoken young man with refined manners. He was, by all accounts, the last person one might imagine pulling a trigger in a saloon brawl. But life has a way of rerouting destinies. Soon after beginning his career, Holliday was diagnosed with tuberculosis, the same disease that had claimed his mother. At the time, medicine had no cure, and patients were often told to move westward, where the dry climate might prolong life. Holliday, just in his 20s, was given only months, perhaps a few years, to live. Faced with death, he abandoned dentistry and began drifting west. By the mid-1870s, he had reinvented himself. Instead of drilling teeth, Holliday became a gambler, first in Dallas, then across Texas and the frontier towns sprouting from the desert. Gambling was a rough profession. It meant long nights in smoke-filled saloons, watching cards, reading men, and sometimes defending oneself against cheaters or drunkards who didn't take kindly to losing. Holliday, despite his frail health, proved himself with cards and with a gun. His illness left him thin, pale, and coughing, but his quick reflexes and deadly aim soon earned him a reputation. They called him DOC, the dentist-turned-gambler, and whispers began to spread that he was a man not to be trifled with. The frontier was a dangerous place, and Holliday's illness gave him a strange edge. He knew he was living on borrowed time. Death did not frighten him, and this fearlessness made him unpredictable. Throughout the 1870s, Holliday drifted from town to town: Fort Griffin, Dodge City, Las Vegas, New Mexico, not Nevada, and eventually Tombstone. Along the way, he became entangled with the law more than once. He was arrested for gambling disputes, suspected in shootings, and was even rumored to have killed men over card games. Though historians debate the number, some claim Holliday may have killed as many as a dozen men. But the defining chapter of his life began when he met Wyatt Earp in Dodge City. Wyatt was a lawman, calm and measured, the opposite of Holliday's fiery temperament. Yet the two men struck up an unlikely friendship. Wyatt respected Holliday's intelligence and loyalty. Holliday admired Wyatt's sense of order and duty. It was a bond that would carry them through one of the most infamous gunfights in American history. By 1880, Wyatt and Holliday were in Tombstone, Arizona, a booming silver mining town filled with saloons, gamblers, prostitutes, and outlaws. Tensions simmered between the Earp brothers Wyatt, Virgil, and Morgan, who were lawmen, and the outlaw faction known as the Cowboys, led by Ike Clanton and the McClory brothers. The Cowboys rustled cattle, robbed stages, and often clashed with the law. On October 26, 1881, these tensions boiled over. In a vacant lot near the Corral, the Earps and Holliday faced off against the Clantons and McClorys. The confrontation lasted barely 30 seconds, but it would become the most legendary gunfight in the Old West. Eyewitness accounts differ, but what's certain is this: Holliday, armed with a shotgun, fought viciously. Despite his illness, despite his frail body, He stood shoulder to shoulder with the Earps. Shots rang out, smoke filled the air, and when the dust cleared, 3 cowboys lay dead. Holliday had proven his loyalty and his lethality. The newspapers sensationalized the event, and the legend of Wyatt Earp and DOC Holliday was cemented. But the aftermath was brutal. The cowboys sought revenge. In 1882, Morgan Earp was assassinated. Wyatt, fueled by rage, began what became known as the Earp Vendetta Ride, hunting down those responsible. And at his side, as always, was DOC Holliday. Holliday's health, however, was deteriorating rapidly. Years of tuberculosis had taken their toll. By the mid-1880s, he was coughing blood daily, his strength fading. He drifted into Colorado, hoping the mountain air might help. Instead, it was in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, that DOC's story came to an end. On November 8, 1887, DOC Holliday died in a sanitarium, just 36 years old. His last words reportedly were filled with irony. "This is funny," for a man who had faced so many guns, so many duels, and lived with death at his shoulder for years. It was tuberculosis, not a bullet, that finally claimed him. His funeral was modest. His grave lies in Glenwood Springs, though some believe his body was later moved to Georgia. Wyatt Earp, who outlived him by decades, never forgot his friend. DOC was a dentist, Wyatt once said, not a lawman or an assassin, whom necessity had made a gambler, a gentleman whom disease had made a frontier vagabond, and whom fate had made a gunfighter. DOC Holliday. His story endures because it embodies the contradictions of the Old West. He was refined, yet deadly, sickly yet dangerous, reckless yet fiercely loyal. He was a man who knew he was dying and chose to live boldly, recklessly, until his last breath. And so, DOC Holliday remains not just a name in history books, but a symbol of the West itself. Tragic, violent, and unforgettable. Thank you for watching Crimes Through Time. If you found this story fascinating, hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history's darkest legends. And tell us in the comments, was DOC Holliday a hero, a villain, or simply a man trying to survive in a brutal world? We'll see you in the next episode. Until then, stay curious, stay safe,